Well, folks, these days the fight for gun rights, it's not just being fought in the U.S. Congress. It's not just being fought in state capitals. It's being fought everywhere. And the American Firearms Association is leading this fight in the courtroom as well. And today we have a major victory to talk to you guys about as AFA's affiliate in Wyoming scored a massive victory in federal court yesterday for the First Amendment to help us fight to protect our Second Amendment rights. We have the whole team here today from the American Firearms Association, and we're going to break down this lawsuit for everybody in a few minutes here. If you guys want to get into this video and let us know where you're watching from. I think that there was a time back in the day, Chris, when we all kind of our primary focus was exclusively on politics in legislative chambers. But what we've seen now from the radical left, they know they can't win in Congress, and more of these fights are being fought in courthouses, federal and state, and AFA has been there in Missouri, been there in Wyoming, and we're going to keep being there to fight for gun rights in court as well as in state capitals.
That's the dang truth. The radical left, the liberal left, the cultural Marxists masquerading as Democrats, they know that the more and more that they go woke, they're going broke in the state legislatures. They can't get their crap passed there. They can't get it passed in Congress. And the reason why is simple. Americans reject tyranny and we reject their woke liberal stupidity. So they're increasingly going right to the courtrooms. AFA, all these state groups that you're watching on right now, we focus all the time on the state legislatures. The legislature is the most powerful branch of government. We've been absolutely hammering back now in the courts, and today we're super happy to announce this massive victory for gun rights, especially in the area of free speech. They not only want to take away your guns, they want to take away your right to even advocate for your gun rights by suing the heck out of us. Today, we have a huge victory. We wanted to talk about it with you, and we're going to explain it right here for you on this show.
This all began, guys, because the Wyoming gun owners, AFA's affiliate out west, is so brutal, so lethal,
yes.
so aggressively effective in the primaries that after the 2020 elections was over, the word got out across the entire state. If we don't deal with these gun owners, they're going to cut off the heads of all of us, politically speaking, as these elections keep going. It happened in 2018. It happened again in 2020. And so they passed a brand new campaign finance law. The minute we saw it, we knew it was BS. We knew it was unconstitutional. We knew it would not pass the First Amendment scrutiny. And so we ignored it. I mean, basically, we ignored it. And they then came back after us after the elections in 2020, and they demanded, wait for this, folks, they demanded the list of every one of our members in Wyoming. They wanted their names. They wanted their addresses. They wanted their contact info. They wanted to know how much money they gave in the fight for gun rights. I think everybody knows in a post-Kavanaugh world what cancer culture tactics mean.
Exactly.
And so we all looked at this. AFA looked at this. Our Wyoming group looked at this, and we knew this would only be used to attack the hell out of our members. And we flat out said no. Again, after Kavanaugh, there's no more pretense left. They want names and addresses only so they can harass the hell. Call your boss, call your employer, call your friends. What you're saying, Chris?
For those of you who don't know, I mean, what like causes all this? What caused us to go to court? AFA, all of these state level gun rights organization pages that you're watching on, we not only are involved in the legislative process, we're not all, trying to push for gun rights bills or push back against gun control bills. We aggressively, more than any other entity on the Second Amendment side of the aisle, we aggressively go after these people like dogs on a freaking bone at election time. And folks, there are political careers convulsing in the gutters of history all over America because we go after them so hard and viciously that at election time, gun owners just destroy those political careers. There's a lot of politicians who are no longer in office because these organizations expose the hell out of them at election time. These legislatures, the legislators themselves, they hate that. So they're always trying to pass what we call gag act legislation. They want to stop. They want to block gun rights organizations from getting involved in the election process whatsoever, from holding them accountable. They want to use the power of government to protect themselves as incumbents. They want to use the power of government to clamp down on free speech so that they can continue their assault on the Second Amendment with impunity. So we come in, Wyoming gun owners in this case, came in, exposed a whole bunch of rhinos, a whole bunch of losers. The gun owners went to the polls, booted a lot of those jackasses out, and as a result, these people come after people like Wyoming gun owners and say, you guys shouldn't be able to practice free speech in proximity to an election. And that's the basis for this entire lawsuit. WYGO was like, you know what? You guys want our donors? You want to be able to dox our members? Why don't you go screw yourself? We'll see you in court. And that's exactly where we met them.
Well, this entire law was designed by politicians to protect politicians. I mean, if we had $1 for every time somebody filed a complaint against the Door Brothers, the American Firearms Association, these state-level gun rights organizations that you're watching this on right now, filed complaints with attorney generals and all of these people. They do it all the time. It's all about cancel, 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 shut down the opposition. They can never win on the merits. They can never win. They don't have the hearts and minds of patriotic Americans. So the only thing they can do is, just like Twitter, just like Facebook, it's silence the opposition. And that's what they tried to do in Wyoming. They tried to silence Wyoming gun owners. They tried to silence the American Firearms Association, the Door Brothers. They tried to silence it all, and they freaking lost, because in some places, the rule of law, and there are still just courts out there. There are still people who rule the correct way on things like this, and that's what happened.
The other part of this is that they never thought that there would ever be this kind of level of vitriolic opposition from a gun rights organization in a small population state of Wyoming. These people, I got a photograph of the lovely attorney general in Wyoming right there. That's Bridget Hill right there. And Ben, if you want to pull up a photograph, actually, I'll get it. But Bridget Hill and the state of Wyoming, they never thought that we were going to fight back. They thought, like every other organization, we were going to roll over, meekly submit, and say, okay, fine, here's our members, here's their names, here's their addresses. And so instead we said, you know what? We're going to pay your $500 fine. And I know what happened. I mean, I don't know, but I know what happened. We paid that fine. I guarantee Secretary of State Ed Buchanan, the Attorney General, probably the governor, they sat back there laughing their butts off because Wyoming gun owners are affiliate in Wyoming. They paid that fine. They figured that's it. That's the last of these guys. They're going to fall apart. Instead, we dropped this little bomb on them. This is our lawsuit that we filed in federal court out in Wyoming. And we recently, as in last night, had a response from the judge. It was a massive, massive victory. He ruled that the entire nexus of their campaign finance law was an abject violation of the First Amendment. These people are trying to muzzle gun owners, trying to muzzle associations that fight for them, trying to make sure either A, you keep your mouth shut, or B, you give us your name and address if you wish to speak. That's it. And we said, we're not going to do it. We will not do it. And the final conclusion here in this last page, you can see right here, this code section does not survive exacting scrutiny and violates the First Amendment. As a result, it is void for vagueness. It is not applicable to Wyoming gun owners. It is unconstitutional. Boom. That's what you call a clean sweep when it comes to a legal attack in federal court. And so I think it's just really, really huge for gun owners because this fight, it's not just in Congress or just in the state capitol anymore. AFA is fighting and winning everywhere, including federal court. That's why you guys have got to be involved in this fight today as a member of AFA.
Well, why don't you set what? Yeah, I mean, I think as I'm listening to a lot of this. I know you were deeply involved in all this, Aaron, and as gun owners, Second Amendment supporters, we get in a tizzy about keeping lists of gun owners and our guns, and we should, right? But there's also this thing called the First Amendment, which we like to say the Second Amendment protects, but they also like to throw us on lists there as well, and that's what this was all about, and political speech. Well, why don't you, when you get a second, set the stage here as an average gun owner? I'm never going to go into federal court. right? I'm never going to sit in front of the black robe for the most part, unless I'm getting pulled in for some sort of gun crime. Why don't you let everybody know what happened, what it looks like, who was on each side? We saw the gal a minute ago, and just set the scene for the average gun owner watching this thing.
Yeah, what you heard a minute ago is kind of the case. We had these viciously effective election programs in 2018 and 2020 because, unlike most of the rest of the national gun rights organizations in the country, we take our job of going after gun grabbers in both parties extremely seriously. And so after we angered the entire state, they went to the Chamber of Commerce in Cheyenne. It's the internal party power broker elites in Cheyenne. And every state has these people. It could be different in your state. And they had them file this bogus complaint. And that was spoon-fed right up to these folks right here. Attorney General Bridget Hill, Secretary of State Ed Buchanan.
Frigid.
And this is how this works. They know they have all the power. They run the state apparatus. They are in charge. They are the power hitters. They have all their bills are covered by taxpayers. And so they get these complaints. They give it a sham investigation. The hilarious part here is that we first heard about this from a reporter. The first time we heard about this back in 2020 was when the Riverton Ranger from Riverton, Wyoming called me and said, "What's your response on this ethics charge?" And I was like, "What?
I know
ethics
how that
charge?"
works.
Totally leaked to
Ben knows a
the
little bit
media
something about
before
that.
it was ever even made part of the public record. And we said it's BS. And the response from the state was very simple: surrender the names, and you're good. That's all I want you to do. Just give us the names. Just give us the names. Just give us the names. And or pay
Over
this
our
fine.
dead freaking body. I mean, how cheap do they think we are?
You think we are the NRA?
And these are
Yeah.
Republicans, right? Are these
there's
statewide? Statewide elected
there's
people.
more spotted owls in Wyoming than there are Democrats by far. So yes, it's all Republican run apparatus. And I think what they were expecting was that we were just going to roll over and take it. And we reached out to, I believe, every national gun rights organization. I believe almost all of them, even asked them, "Hey, will you help us fight this?" And they all did not want to get involved in that. And so we did it. AFA did it. WIGO members did it. And we fought back. I'm going to give major shout out to the Institute for Free Speech, IFS, out of Washington, D.C. These guys are as aggressive as we are in the Second Amendment. These guys eat, breathe, and sleep the First Amendment. And they were very happy to take this case with us. They were very tenacious fighters for the First Amendment. And so a major shout out to the Institute for Free Speech. We could not have won this victory without them. It's just the bottom line. But they took this case alongside of us. And we fought back for the last year and a half. Interrogatories, discovery motions, back and forth. And finally, just 2 weeks ago in Casper, Wyoming, sunny, warm, Casper, Wyoming, we were there in the courtroom for oral arguments. The judge heard from both sides. He clearly was going to rule in our favor. The only question left was what kind of decision would he make? And as you can see right here on the last page of this document, top paragraph, this code section does not survive scrutiny and it violates the First Amendment. And previously he had invalidated that entire code section. So in Wyoming now, this is not enforceable. And it's just a huge victory for gun owners, both in Wyoming, but also across the country. Because once you get that kind of a win, that can be used then as precedent for all kinds of other organizations on guns and everything else all across the country. Big win.
Good. Hey guys, if you're out there watching, let us know where you're watching from. We're all over the country right now. I'm in Kennesaw, Georgia, and the guys are spread out around the country as well. Let us know where you're watching from down in the comment section, guys. And by the way, if you love the work the American Firearms Association is doing, join up today at joinafa.org. That's 7 letters, joinafa.org, joinafa.org. Become a member today. We're also fighting the Supreme Court nomination at the federal level as well, guys. But head on over to joinafa.org. We've got Ohio, St. Cloud, Florida, Texas, New Orleans, Houston, Franklin, Georgia, Wisconsin, Ohio. A lot of Ohioans in here, Georgia. Everybody's coming in, guys. After you do that, either now or at the conclusion of the show, join up at joinafa.org. We are talking about the Wyoming gun owners, our state affiliate. of the American Firearms Association with a huge victory over the government in federal court in Cheyenne, Wyoming. It wasn't Casper.
Well, it's statewide. We were in Casper for
Statewide.
court, but it's statewide. It's federal court.
Okay, good.
So
Big
Aaron,
victory, guys.
Tell us what it's like for those of us, increasingly fewer of us, who have never been inside of a federal courtroom before.
Yeah.
What's that like going in there? I mean, is it all nerves and erect? You take some pictures? How'd that go?
Yeah, well, it's a lot easier, I think, if you're in federal court as the guy who's bringing the charges, as opposed, I presume, to the person who is receiving the charges. And maybe we can discuss stuff, those topics sometime.
Absolutely
done all that.
But no, I mean, these guys have a complex, and so no phones are allowed. He couldn't have any phones inside. Can't record anything. Sir, yes, sir. May it please the court, sir. But what's really amazing about this is that I think a lot of people assume these federal judges are a deity unto themselves, and in many ways they act like that. But what caught me repeatedly in the hours that we sat there in Casper recently was that what Trump did on the Supreme Court is reshaping the First Amendment fight, and it's going to go on, folks, for decades to come. Because when the state of Wyoming brings up all this precedent about how we have to comply, our legal team with the Institute for Free Speech could respond and say, yeah? Oh, yeah? Really? Yeah? That's all before the Supreme Court ruled just last summer in the AFP case out of California that there's a much more protections necessary for the First Amendment and for free association. So what we're seeing in court is these guys want to be tyrants, but Donald Trump put 3 people on that court that have reshaped the entire narrative when it comes to our First Amendment freedoms. And we're going to see more and more of these decisions, I believe, at lower level courts, like where we were in the federal court. And we're going to see more and more of these where they have to protect our right of free association more. They have to protect the First Amendment more. They have to stop these disclosure laws, these gag act rules more and more and more. So it was great to sit there, couldn't record it, would have loved to do that, but just to watch these wannabe tyrants, the state's legal team trying to force the judge to see things their way. And our legal team could respond and say, yeah, but all these cases from Trump judges all across the country and the Supreme Court, it's reshaping the entire conversation right now across the country.
And that to me, just to be very, very clear, this was a political attack on Wyoming gun owners, on the American Firearms Association. This was a political attack on behalf of politicians who had got their asses handed to them in the elections. And we have always known, we've known this together. I think the 4 people you see on here, we've been working in gun politics for probably close to 50 years combined. We know that when we push this hard, that when we fight hard for our members, for freedom, for our country, we will win. But with winning, with those victories comes pissed off power brokers like Wyoming, like these politicians, like these attorney generals. I'm telling you, we have had more investigations, more politically motivated hit jobs and attacks on these organizations than you can imagine. Yeah. The other organizations avoid this stuff at all costs. They'll never go that far. They'll never go far enough to win. They'll never go far enough to make these politicians mad, make these governments mad, these attorney generals and these governors. They'll never do that. And that is why they don't win. We keep winning and we keep getting attacked, but we're winning now. We're even winning now on these federal court cases. This is spectacular stuff. And we know that if we continue to hold this line, if we continue to fight this hard, as Christopher says here in the comment section, fight on. If we fight on, we will continue to win both in the courts and in the legislature and in the election season, things like that. So get on board with AFA. Go to joinafa.org. We are fighting harder. We can tell we've been doing this long enough. We can look at other organizations and see the precise point where they chose not to go all the way, where they chose, we're going to go this far to make a nice scene for gun owners, but then we're going to back off lest we make anybody mad. We don't want to make anybody mad. We can see where those pressure points come and where other organizations back off. We don't. We continue to fight. That's why Ohio just passed constitutional carry with Chris leading the fight with the American Firearms Association, and Ohio gun owners passed all the way through and signed by Mike DeWine. Nobody else led that fight. Every other organization is claiming credit for it.
yeah.
No doubt.
We'd love to do that.
Every national organization is sitting here going, we backed that bill. We backed that bill. No, we rammed it through. And that is what we do. So go to www.joinafa.org, become a member of this organization today, on the heels of this tremendous victory in Wyoming. This is great stuff.
I also just to butt in here for a second. I also want to let everybody know who's watching this. The reason why AFA and WIGO fought this so hard, and some people might sit here and think, well, my goodness, it's Wyoming. How bad can it be compared to where I'm watching from Philadelphia right now, or from Atlanta, Georgia, or Raleigh, North Carolina, Columbus, Ohio? The reason why we're fighting this there, why we're fighting it everywhere, is because this legislation is everywhere. It's in almost every state legislature in America. I'm fighting it right now. The members of Ohio gun owners are fighting it right now in Ohio. It's called it was introduced by Representative Diane Grandel. It's been introduced in the Pennsylvania legislature. This is a concerted effort by the left to try to dox gun owners across the board. They want to expose, they want to get their hands on these lists. Remember back in the day when we had to fight so hard to get the newspapers and the database of concealed carry permit holders removed from the law? Remember those newspapers were publishing the home addresses of every. That was 5, 6, 10 years ago. Imagine what they would do now to your business, to your personal life, to all these different things if they could get their hands on the lists of gun owners who are funding the protection of gun rights. We have so many members of this organization, of all of these organizations that you're watching on right now, that are members of the law enforcement. They're cops. A lot of them are cops that are directly in opposition to what their FOP, Fraternal Order of Police, or whatever associations that are advocating against gun rights, that are in the state legislatures, lobbying against our freedoms. They would love to do this because they want to attack American culture, patriotic culture at every single level. And this is why we fight it so hard in Wyoming. What happens there, I'll be able to sit down with Diane Grandel in the Ohio State House and say, look, your bill is a bunch of bullshit. We beat it in Wyoming. We'll beat it here. We will beat on you. We will beat on everybody else that supports this bill if you continue doing this. It's unconstitutional. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it, but I know what you're doing. Same with the Pennsylvania and all these other state pages that you guys are watching on right now. This is a nasty issue. It's an issue, quite frankly, that you will not hear gun owners of America talk about. They're totally silent on this issue. NAGR, of course, the NRA is totally silent on this crap. They're too busy fighting their own lawsuits about corruption in New York right now. But nobody else fights these fights because nobody else can think 5 steps ahead or 5 feet ahead, let alone 5 steps ahead. But these things are on a collision with the worldview of freedom, and we cannot sit these battles out. We can't let these fights get won by the left, because if we do, maybe we won't pay for it, but our kids damn sure will.
Yes.
It's all about momentum. It's all about momentum. It always has been. You look at the constitutional carry fight, right? We had 2 states when AFA, our first state groups, got going years ago. We have 25 states today. We have all these states that are pushing Disclose Act, Gag Act laws now, and so we know what we fight and win on today will help all the rest of these states that we're engaged in. I mean, Chris, you mentioned Ohio passing constitutional carry. For those who haven't seen the news yet, Indiana passed it last night. And in the news articles that I was reading, they talked a lot about how the fact that Governor Holcomb, who is an enemy to gun owners, he publicly praises red flag laws, for heaven's sakes. Governor Holcomb basically had no choice. Why? Because Mike DeWine was forced to sign this into law in Ohio. And AFA, an OGO nation, we've always known when you make these major accomplishments in the fight for freedom in one state, it has dividends all across the country, and especially in these contiguous states. So the victory in Indiana, in large part, stemmed from the victory that was won by AFA and OGO Nation in Ohio. And I'll be the first one to say that publicly. That was a major victory for our entire operation and for all the gun owners in these states. The same thing applies here.
Yeah.
If we beat them in court here, we can beat them in court in other places as well on this issue.
Yes, we knew this. We knew this. Everybody was sitting here going, is Holcomb going to sign? Is Holcomb going to sign? And days ago, we said, of course he's going to sign. And people, how can you possibly know that? Because we are going to make Mike DeWine sign. We knew that whatever DeWine did, Holcomb was going to do. And we knew that we had DeWine over a friggin' barrel. We knew it all along. So everybody's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Holcomb signed that. He's such a piece of crap rhino. Well, yeah, so's Mike DeWine, but DeWine had no choice. And when DeWine had no choice, Holcomb had no choice. So big win in Indiana. Good stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a lot of Johnny come lately, so to speak, in the gun rights movement, who, I mean, strength in numbers, right? But you guys talk about momentum and everything else, but I mean, we know all these groups, we know these guys, we know what they're doing. They're sitting out in Fort Collins, Colorado, or Washington, or Springfield, Virginia, or Bellevue, Washington. Okay. And over the last 10, 12, 15 years, for the most part, they've taken the easy way out. Okay. Now everything's fallen like dominoes, and they're ripping their emails out and their Facebook posts and out at Maples Way, or whatever it's called in Fairfax, Virginia. When in fact the real victories and this momentum started from people like you guys watching, people that you're watching on this screen, pounding the pavement in state capitals across the country. Yeah, we're not winning a lot at the federal level in the Congress right now. Okay, but that time is coming. And we are going to win. And that's why we ask, if you love what we're doing at the state level, if you love the victory that we had last night in federal court in Casper, Wyoming, then hop on over and become a member of the American Firearms Association. It's joinafa.org, guys. Let me read some of the new members here. There's David in Sayre, Pennsylvania is in. Robert in Pelican Rapids, Minnesota has come on board.
Nice.
Frederick in St. Louis, Missouri. You got to stay safe there. Frederick is a new member of the American Firearms Association. Dave in Salmon, Idaho is in. Alvin in Drums, Pennsylvania is a new member. Rebecca in Platteville, Wisconsin is in. John in Cottonwood, Arizona. Guys, there's some good news from yesterday. If you're on our national email list at the American Firearms Association, we've been fighting the VAWA legislation. We fought the Supreme Court nomination, guys, and we had all-time records yesterday of people interacting with our emails and just pounding Capitol Hill in opposition to this radical leftist Ketanji Brown Jackson. So get on board at the American Firearms Association.org, joinafa.org, become a member today, sign up for our email list, and we'll fold you into the battle here.
While we were on that topic of momentum and what happens in one state happens, it significantly impacts what happens in another. Those of you who are watching Ohio, we all remember this. Not only do we believe that on our side, not only do we gun rights people know that what happens in one state will very likely affect what happens in another, and then now we have all these news articles that say that Indiana Governor Holcomb signed constitutional carry largely in part because Mike DeWine did. But remember back in 2018, right after the Parkland, Florida shootings, Red Flag John Kasich introduced his red flag gun confiscation bill, and OGO kicked it into overdrive and really went all out to stop John Kasich, because he sat there in his press conference talking about the bill. He said, we have to do this. We have to pass red flags gun confiscation here in Ohio because we're a great big red state. And if we can get this passed here, we can send a message to all these other red states that you guys can do it too, and you won't have to worry about a backlash. Well, those were like freaking fighting words. I was standing like 8 feet in front of him in the press conference in the governor's office, like we always are. We're always front row, by the way.
Yeah.
Or usually. Sometimes we have to just zoom in because we're so busy in another state or something that we can't make it. But I was standing 7 or 8 feet in front of him. He said that, it came out of his mouth, and I'm like, you son of a beep. And it was on like Donkey Kong. And of course, OGO Nation, I mean, that's honestly when it's like we went from a teenage thug to an 800-pound silverback gorilla, and we just pounded the heck out of that legislature and stopped it because we knew right then what he said was absolutely true. Absolutely. Yep. In fact, all of us watching here right now, all of us who are partaking in this, all remember, and we've seen this so many times in the last couple of years, where in the efforts to pass red flags in all these different states, they have all referenced the state of Indiana. Oh, it's the first state to pass red flags in Mike Pence's state of home state of Indiana. And we have had to fight back against that stuff because all of these gun groups, Gun Owners of America, NRA, National Association for Gun Rights, none of those people, we weren't even going back then. And none of those people did anything to stop red flags from passing there. And it was
Isn't that crazy?
Isn't it nuts?
Holy crap.
I mean, these multi-million dollar a year groups raking in massive stacks of cash off of the backs of gun owners who are simply angry about Joe Biden. And what have they done? What have they done in the past? Just sat there like lumps in a log. Now, when we hear this stuff, we know it's on the line. Our kids' future is on the line. So we get to work and we instantly start fighting back. And you know what? The left understands it. We understand it. And we cannot let any of this go unanswered anymore. I mean, that's exactly how we got to where we are. It's because GOA, NRA, NAGR, all these people are sitting there doing nothing while our freedoms are on the chopping block. So you know what? Fine. If they're not going to do it, we will.
Right. It was a hard fight in Ohio. It was a years-long fight, very unforgiving, very difficult, very hard to do.
Not a lot of politicians like me anymore in the state of Ohio because of what I had and what OGO Nation had to do to them to win those fights.
And so these other organizations that you're talking about, Chris, we know how this game works. They hop from easy fight to easy fight, from inevitable win to inevitable win, right? They focus on this or they focus on that. Whatever raises the most amount of money, whatever gets the most amount of jank in the door, that's what these people chase after. When, like you said, you just laid out the whole picture. If a giant Republican supermajority, super Republican controlled state like Ohio, if a state like that can pass red flag laws, then all of these other Republican controlled states all across the country would start going, well, if it's good enough for the GOP in this mega red state like Ohio, it's good enough for our state. So clearly the fight that was waged right there against John Kasich was exactly where all of the concentrated firepower of all the national gun rights organizations, it's where it should have been, because it would have saved it all over the country. But it's where they were not. It's where they were not. And it's where we were. Because like you just said, we can see exactly what the left sees, what they want. We know their strategy, and we have a long-term strategy to win as well. So guys, I think that's what we have for right now. Go and become a member of the American Firearms Association today after this huge win in the state of Wyoming. It was a
big win
thing that had ramifications far outside of that beautiful little state. Go to www.joinafa.org and become a member today. We're going to sign off with that for right now. Keep your powder dry, everybody. Fight for our freedom. Fight for the Second Amendment, for the future of our country. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back with another update very, very soon. Take care, guys.
Take care.